Also, that written information is not made accessible to patients with aphasia. Hence, patients with aphasia are excluded from many components of stroke care. Would you agree that this happens in Egypt too?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. We're on common ground. The solution lies in mandatory communication training for all staff. Systematic reviews show that stroke care staff can improve their communication with patients with aphasia through something called supported communication training. Implementing this into routine clinical practice, particularly in the acute setting, is very difficult. But offering all written information in an accessible, or what we call aphasia-friendly format, is another feature of stroke care that includes people with aphasia. So, where can you get communication training for all of your staff? On the internet, there are many examples of 10 tips for communication with people with aphasia. Things like using a pen and paper, not pretending that you understand what they say one thing at a time, don't rush, slow down, draw diagrams, write down keywords, recap so that you can check that they understand. Also things like being in a quiet area as well. Now these things, of course, seem simple, but the bottom line is that we usually don't have the time or the skills to do this in real life. But there are many of these resources that are on the internet. If you preferred to do an online training course, there is a free online training course with the University College of London. And this is free. There are many videos that can be used, and at the end of it, you sort of get a certificate that you have actually completed this course. So it's not as if the resources and the training is not out there for you to do. So it's possible to do it. In addition, there are many resources on the internet to help you with your written information. For example, this first one is an aphasia-friendly information about a CAT scan. The second one is just a simple yes-no chart of yes or no, but you can just use yes or no with someone with a severe aphasia, or these communication charts are also available on the internet. They can support people with aphasia's understanding of what they're going through. So just before we move on to clinical indicator 2, I just perhaps if you could just put yourself in the shoes of someone with aphasia. So they are in hospital, they don't know why they're in hospital, they don't understand what you say. When they try to talk, it comes out all gobbledygook. The words are not meaningful. When they try to write it down, they find the same thing. When they try to read anything, again, it looks like gobbledygook to them. So a reminder that aphasia is a disorder of language impairment. It's a language impairment where the language pathways of the brain have been interrupted by the stroke. Clinical indicator 2, patients with aphasia and their family are offered aphasia aphasia rehabilitation. Now we know that people with aphasia may not receive aphasia rehabilitation, particularly if they have no physical symptoms and are discharged early. Or they don't need the physical rehabilitation disciplines. Or increasingly in Australia, if the patient has been thrombolyzed, then there's a mild and undetected mild aphasia, and they get discharged with a mild aphasia, thinking that that's going to be all okay. The other point where they may not get aphasia rehabilitation is when they're admitted directly to an aged care facility because the stroke is so severe. So there is a leaky pipeline of aphasia care where patients with aphasia leak through the system at acute care because they're a walking aphasic, they have a mild aphasia because of thrombolysis, they have severe physical problems and they go straight to aged care, or they don't get to rehabilitation because only speech therapy is needed, or they're discharged from rehabilitation because they have reached this mythical plateau, which has been disproved many times. And finally, if they are going straight into community, there is either no community resources or there is no referral to any community resources. So again, the solution lies in offering better service delivery models of aphasia rehabilitation. Now, I'm sure you would all know that the latest 2 Cochrane reviews have shown that speech and language therapy for people with aphasia is effective. There is no doubt. Okay, we are starting from the premise that speech therapy is effective. Therapy may target any domain of the World Health Organization's biopsychosocial model. So it can be either at the impairment level, activities, or participation level. How common is the ICF used in Egypt? Not used at all. It is a World Health Organization framework for rehabilitation. So therapy may target any domain of the ICF, and it can be either individual, group, or computer-based therapy. And all of those are effective. The thing is, like even physical rehabilitation, intensity is an issue and it's important. So intensive programs can be effective, and there is increasing evidence that tele-rehabilitation or tele-practice is feasible and as effective as face-to-face therapy. In the community aphasia groups that are peer-led are also an effective and valued resource in the community. In the second part of my presentation this afternoon, I'll be telling you more about our intensive comprehensive aphasia program. It's a standard package of rehabilitation that we are hoping to give to everyone with aphasia, so that everyone has an opportunity to benefit from effective evidence-based aphasia rehabilitation. In terms of what is an intensive comprehensive aphasia program, it's a minimum of at least 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 weeks. It's completed by a cohort, people that are coming in at the same time and leave at the same time. It targets impairment and activity and participation on the ICF using individual therapy, group therapy, and patient and family education. Some of the core values include that it does involve family and friends, that it's very tailored to the individuals, and that we only use evidence-based interventions. That is, those that have got to level 1 evidence of many randomised controlled trials and have been written up in a systematic review. Of course, we are following neuroplasticity principles there too. Again, computer-based therapy is becoming much more popular, and a very recent large randomised controlled trial has found that computer therapy is as good as speech-language therapist delivered therapy. This is a free resource, again, on the internet. It's called the Aphasia Software Finder. And there are many computer programs here that can help people with aphasia. In addition, there is another free resource about community aphasia groups. And this has been developed by my colleagues at La Trobe University. And it's called the Interdisciplinary Community Aphasia Group Program, and it's amazing. It's got all of this information about how to develop and run an aphasia group. Again, it's free. The third clinical indicator that many people with aphasia talk about is that people with aphasia should be given the opportunity to speak for themselves and to comment on the care they receive. The thing is that people with aphasia are not deemed competent to make decisions, provide consent, or provide feedback. Consumer experience surveys and feedback on services is definitely not aphasia friendly. Even stroke associations are not aphasia friendly. Again, the solution is that aphasia-friendly communication should be mandatory for everybody who is working with stroke. It is the aid that all people with aphasia should be offered, just like a walking frame, a stick, or a wheelchair. We would never think about not giving